I'm Shona from the Village Storytelling Centre, and all month we've been celebrating LGBT History Month, and today I'm going to share with you a story which is about a man who wasn't recognised for who he really was on the inside. So this is a story about a man who lives in social isolation, almost. He lives alone in a hut in a forest in the middle of Scotland. And in the spring and the summer he eats very well. He eats salmon from the river and wild garlic and pine nuts. He can make a nice pesto. He eats fruits and honey, and in the autumn too he can fill himself with food, but in the winter it's much harder. And so in the winter he has to gather sticks from the forest floor and sell them in the nearby village for a little bit of money to survive. But this is never a happy exchange, because the people in the village, they're very quick to say, see that man from the forest, he's totally different from us. He's got messy hair and he probably smells like a forest creature, and he's ugly, he's not like us, and he's got a hunchback. And the man does have a hunchback, but he didn't notice until it was pointed out. And the man can't say anything back because he has no voice, he's a mute. And you know, the wee kids in the village, to be honest, they're the worst, because they take these wee stones, the pebbles, and they try and throw them off his back, and they get 10 points if they land right on the hunchback. So he leaves the forest, the village, and he always feels, you can imagine, he feels terrible. But luckily, he's not totally alone. He's got a community of animals around him. He has a ferret, who's his best friend, who runs up to him as soon as he leaves the village, wraps himself around his neck and whispers in his ear, "You're beautiful, you are beautiful, don't listen to them." And he's got a crow pal who's very wise and says, "They're all wee creeps anyway, creeps." And a little robin, who's the spokesperson of the forest, and the robin says, "Listen, we love you, but if you can't love yourself, how in the heck are you going to love anybody else?" And the squirrels, they jump in the trees doing backflips to make him laugh, so soon he does feel better. Now, every day at sunset, he goes to the loch side, because it's there he sees his love. It's not that he's in love with this creature, it's that he feels drawn to it. So I guess you could call that love. Anyway, he waits for a swan that comes in every night at sunset and lands elegantly on the loch. And the swan turns its beautiful head towards the man. And then she just flicks it and leaves. She's not interested in him. She's seen what those men are like in the village. They tried to chase her. And so he never gets to meet this swan. And that's what life's like for the man. He lives a simple life in the forest with his friends. He waits for the love of his life, or the thing that's calling him at the loch side, but it never responds. And he can't call out to it because he's a mute. And he sells a bit of wood in the village for a bit of money. And so it goes on, and time passes and the seasons change, and as time passes, the little kids in the village with their wee pebbles, they become big kids with bigger rocks. And so soon he's leaving the village not only hurting, but also injured. Until one day, in the middle of February, when it was cold and frosty on the ground, he didn't arrive at the village. And the villagers said, not only is he lazy, not only is he not like us, he's also a hunchback and we don't like him, and we're not giving him any more of our money. And they didn't go to look for him. Of course, the animals, his friends, they did. They went to his hut, they surrounded it, and the ferret managed to find a crack in the window and get in. And they saw he was lying out, very weak on his bed. And the ferret put his wee ear to the man's chest, and he could hear his heart's beating, but it's very weak. I think he's dying of a broken heart. And the crow, who's the smartest, the crow says, "Well, if it's a broken heart that's going to get him, we need to find the thing he wants." And together they understand it's the creature, the swan-like creature on the loch side. So they rush all together to the loch, and the ferret jumps up and down, and the squirrels do backflips in the trees, and the crow caws, and with one voice they shout out, "Our friend! He's dying and he needs you! If he doesn't see you, we think he's gonna die!" And the swan lands a little less elegantly this time, turns their head towards this strange welcome crew. And she thinks, I remember seeing that man every day, and do you know what? He never chased me, and he never shouted, he wasn't scary, he wasn't like those guys in the village. And I looked forward to seeing him. Take me to him. So the swan went to the man in the hut. He went inside, and can you imagine after all that time, finally connecting with the thing that you've longed to reach out for so long? It must have been incredible. And she, the beautiful swan, she laid her long neck on his chest, and he stroked her elegant back, and he felt like he was at home. And then the swan, she plucked a feather from her chest and pushed it right into his. And he began to transform. His hunchback opened out, and huge wings started to emerge. Huge swan wings, they'd always been in there. And she and the swan left the hut. And the two girls, they took off and flew into the distance. And that's the end of that.